It is a strange thing how we think of warnings as though they are interruptions, nuisances, even insults to our autonomy. We bristle at them like a child told not to touch the fire, resenting the hand that restrains us more than the fire that burns. But I say this plainly, warnings are not threats. They are the last gifts of love offered before the cliff's edge. The world does not often feel like a story anymore, at least not a meaningful one. But suppose it is. Suppose there is a plot after all, and that you are not the author but a character. Then what would you make of the voice that comes in the stillness and tells you, this is your final warning? Would you mock it? Would you delay? Or would you, perhaps for the first time, take it seriously? We often imagine that divine warnings would come with thunder, trumpets, and unmistakable signs. But that is not their way. They come quietly, folded into ordinary moments. A word from a friend that stays with you longer than it should. A dream that feels too real to dismiss. A sudden ache of conscience when you thought you had long stopped caring. They are subtle, yes, but their purpose is fierce. They are the loving interruptions of a God who will not force the door, but will knock again and again before the storm begins. And what follows? That dreadful space between the warning and the miracle, the waiting. It is the time of shadows, the hour that feels like night will never end. We have misunderstood the silence of God. We think He delays, we think He forgets. But the final hour does not mean the last minute. It is not a countdown in the way we expect. Rather, it is a furnace in which the soul is tempered, not with noise, but with stillness. In every great story, there is a lull just before the dawn, a pause before the trumpet sounds. It is in this space, the hour of testing, that faith either dies or is born again. We cry out, why now? Why this ache, this emptiness? But the silence is not absence. It is the weight of something vast approaching. A miracle not yet visible to the eye, but already stirring in the deep. This is why warnings must be heeded, and why waiting must not lead us to despair. The one who receives a warning is not cursed. He is being offered an extraordinary kindness. The chance to prepare, to realign, to choose rightly while there is still time. And the one who waits through the quiet, he is being shaped. Faith is not proven in the moment the sea is parted, but in the long, dry walk toward it. You may feel tired. You may feel that the silence is too long and the miracle too far. But I tell you this, it is nearer than you think. The door is creaking on its hinges. The air is beginning to change, and this moment might be the last time the knock sounds before it opens. Chosen one, this is your final warning, not in wrath, but in mercy, not to shame you, but to awaken you. The miracle begins not when the heavens burst open, but when the heart bows low enough to receive it. And it is almost time. Certainly. Here is the next 600-word expansion in the same voice and style, now drawing from the remaining 2 keynotes. Miracles are not magic tricks, but the music of another world. Choice is the gate, not power, not fame, not blood. There is a misconception, long nourished and stubbornly kept, that miracles are fireworks, loud, dazzling, meant to impress. People speak of them as though they were interruptions of nature, wild violations of the rules, divine sleight of hand, but that is not what they are. A miracle is not a breach in the natural order, it is the reappearance of the original rhythm, long buried beneath noise and dust. When it comes, it is not chaos but clarity, not a trick but a remembering. Miracles do not shout, they hum. They emerge not with spectacle but with unbearable gentleness, like sunlight seeping through shutters into a room too long closed. That is why so many miss them. They are looking for a magician, not a mender. They wait for the sky to split, but not for their hearts to yield. And so the miracle passes them by, not because it was absent, but because it was too soft for unlistening ears. You must understand, the miracle does not come because you earned it, nor does it come to elevate your name. It does not respond to bloodlines or birthright, to cleverness or conquest. It comes through a door you must choose to open, not with your hands, but with your will. This is the secret that lies hidden in plain sight. To be chosen is not to be special in the way the world defines it. It is to be willing. That is all. And yet, that is everything. So many wish for the miracle without the choosing. They want the crown without the altar, the glory without the surrender. But miracles are not handed out like rewards. They are entrusted to those who kneel, not because kneeling makes you worthy, but because it makes you ready. To stand in the presence of the miraculous is to be undone and remade, and only those who have chosen to be broken can bear such remaking. You will be tempted to believe the miracle belongs to the strong. That is a lie. Strength can defend, but it cannot summon. It can lift, but it cannot awaken. The one who receives the miracle is not the one who has proven himself, but the one who has turned. The gate is choice, simple, quiet, defiant against the noise of the world, and every soul, no matter how lost, holds the key. This is why the miracle waits, not because it is late, but because the soul is still deciding. It stands just outside, not pounding on the door, but whispering its song. A music older than time, the sound of home, the voice of a world that once was and might be again, but the tune cannot be forced on you. It must be recognized. It must be welcomed. And so the question is not whether the miracle will come, it is whether you will receive it. The storm gathers, the veil thins, the air has shifted. You, chosen one, stand at the edge of a moment you cannot see fully, but can feel pressing in on all sides. Do not wait for lightning to convince you. Do not look for spectacle to validate what your spirit already knows. The choice is yours. It always has been, and that, perhaps, is the final mercy. That you are still free to say yes. Even now. Especially now. Certainly. Here is a final 600-word reflection in the same voice and tone, now drawing from 3 intertwined keynotes. The call is real even if it feels like a story. Warnings are mercy in disguise. The final hour is never the last minute. There is a peculiar sensation that comes to every soul at least once. The unsettling sense that this life, with all its randomness and noise, might actually be a story. Not just a sequence of events, but a narrative with structure, meaning, and a purpose large enough to include your name. It haunts. It beckons. What if you are being called? The voice never comes the way you expect. Not in thunder, not through the mouths of angels. It comes instead in the language of ordinary things. A moment of stillness that lingers too long, a sentence that stings with a weight it should not carry, the ache you feel when looking at the stars, or hearing a line of music that makes something inside you kneel. These are not accidents, they are invitations, not proof of madness, but evidence of meaning. But then, as soon as you hear the whisper, a second truth presses in, the warning. That strange, holy alarm that what you choose next matters more than you think. It is not the bark of a tyrant, nor the cold hand of fate. It is mercy. Warnings, after all, are given not to condemn, but to rescue. They are the signal flares of a kingdom that still wants you back. It is love, desperate and unrelenting, that cries out, "Turn now," before the door closes. Most ignore it. They tell themselves the call was imagined, the warning overblown. Life presses in with its endless demands, and the soul returns to sleep. But sometimes, and this is the miracle, someone listens. They hear not just the call, but the cost. They feel the weight of the moment and realize it cannot be shrugged off. They understand, in a way that goes deeper than thought, that they are standing on the edge of something eternal. Yet nothing happens, not right away. That is when the final hour begins. Not the last minute, but the long waiting room of the soul. The sky does not split, the light does not change. You have said yes, but the world remains quiet. And in that quiet, doubt begins to hiss. Nothing is coming, it says. You were foolish to believe. There is no miracle, no story, no call, only silence. But silence is not absence. Silence is preparation. The final hour tests not your strength, but your resolve. The page before the miracle is often blank, and those who abandon it will never read what comes next. The story has not ended, it is only holding its breath. This is the hour when wheat is separated from chaff, the moment when all appearances betray you, and only faith can guide you. You must choose again and again and again, not because the miracle is reluctant, but because it is holy. It waits, not to frustrate you, but to refine you. So if you feel as though nothing is happening, if the sky is still and the ground is cold, do not despair. You are closer than you think. Chosen one, the call was real, the warning was mercy, and the silence is the final kindness before the world changes forever. All stories bend here. All heroes are forged in this hush. Stand still. Hold fast. The miracle is almost ready. The author has not forgotten his pen. Certainly. Here is a 600-word reflection expanding on 4 keynotes in a seamless narrative, in the same C.S. Lewis-inspired style. The keynotes woven in are: the call is real, even if it feels like a story. Warnings of mercy in disguise. Miracles are not magic tricks, but the music of another world. The final hour is never the last minute. Somewhere in the quiet hours of a life, often when the noise has paused, or when sorrow has hollowed a place deep enough for something true to echo, you may hear it. A call. Not with your ears, but with the part of you that aches without knowing why. It does not shout. It simply arrives, uninvited and undeniable, as though it had always been waiting for you to finally stop and listen. And when it comes, it feels more like fiction than fact. That's the irony. You suspect a story is being told and you're in it. But the world tells you that only children believe in such things. Callings, destiny, purpose, written by hands not your own, and yet deep down, you already know the truth. The call is real, though it feels like a tale, and perhaps all tales were planted in us for this very reason, to prepare us to recognize the real thing when it comes. But the call never comes alone. It is always followed by a warning, not the kind that frightens like a threat, but the kind that breaks you with its urgency. It says, "This is your moment. Choose well. Do not drift back to sleep." Warnings are not punishments. They are mercy disguised in sternness. They come because time is shorter than it seems. They come because a door is still open, but not forever. The warning is a kindness, a final tap on the shoulder before the gate begins to close. It is heaven bending low to say, "You still can. You are not too far gone." but you must move now. And then comes the hardest part. Not the call, not the warning, but the waiting. Because nothing happens. No signs, no thunder, no brilliant parting of the skies. You respond, maybe even with trembling sincerity, and then the world remains exactly as it was. This is the final hour. And it is not what you imagined. It is still and long and full of doubt. It is here, in this dreadful quiet, that many turn back. They believe they were mistaken. They think the call was a dream, the warning just a shadow, but they are wrong. The final hour is not the end. It is the turning of the page just before the climax. It is the sacred hush before the music begins. And only those who wait long enough, quietly enough, will hear what comes next. Because when the miracle arrives, it will not be what you expect. It won't be fireworks or spectacle. It won't be a grand solution or an instant escape, no. Miracles are not magic tricks. They are not showy disruptions of the natural world. They are, rather, the restoration of it. A brief return to the way things ought to be, like light finally shining on a forgotten path, like a note played that resolves a chord long left hanging. They are subtle, sacred harmonies, the music of another world breaking through. Most people miss them because they are listening for the wrong sound, but not you. Not if you endure the quiet. Not if you trust the call, remember the warning, and wait through the dark without folding. You are closer than you think. The miracle is near, not because you forced it, but because you are willing to receive it. So stand still, stay awake. The silence is not the end, it is the beginning. Whisper, chosen one, this is your final warning before the miracle begins. Certainly. Below is a seamless 600-word reflection, expanding on all 5 keynotes in one unified passage, written in a C.C. Lewis inglorious style, lyrical, introspective, and morally weighty. The 5 woven themes are: the call is real, even if it feels like a story. Warnings are mercy in disguise. Miracles are not magic tricks, but the music of another world. The final hour is never the last minute. Choice is the gate. Not power, not fame, not blood. There comes a moment, often quiet, when the world slips slightly out of focus and you feel, if only for a breath, that there is more to this life than what can be seen. It doesn't come with ceremony. It comes in a glance, a silence, a word that lodges itself deeper than it should, and suddenly reality feels thin, like parchment stretched too far. The air feels heavier with meaning. You sense you are being summoned, not loudly, but unmistakably. It is the sense that you have been called. It feels too grand to believe. Stories are for books and legends, not for ordinary people. You were not born under a star. You've stumbled more than once, but even so, the pull remains, and perhaps that is how you know it is real, because it won't leave you alone. It follows you into your doubts, your distractions, your daily routines. Something is calling, and it has waited patiently for you to listen. But before anything begins, there is always a warning. That too is part of the story. The call does not come without cost. You are told, gently but firmly, that this is the turning point, that what you do now matters more than you can see. And the warning, though it may sting, is not cruelty. It is mercy in its rawest form. It is a voice saying, this is your last chance before the door moves beyond reach. Not because the one calling you is impatient, but because time does not wait forever. Do not mistake the warning for threat. It is grace, whispered urgently before the storm. It is the final hand extended before the waters rise. There is still time, but not endless time. And so, if you respond, even with fear, even with trembling, you will find yourself in the place between the call and the miracle, the waiting. It will feel like nothing is happening. No sign will appear. No veil will lift. It will seem, for a time, as though you imagined it all. That is the final hour, and it does not feel like a climax. It feels like silence. A stillness so wide it can feel like abandonment. But this is how the world prepares to change, not with fanfare, but with quiet. The final hour is not the last minute. It is not delay, but preparation. The soul is being made ready, because the miracle is never small. It is not a trick or an escape or a reward. It is not for applause or display. It is the moment when something deeper breaks through. The memory of how things were always meant to be. Miracles are not unnatural. They are the most natural thing in the universe. Only we've forgotten how to see them. They are not proof, they are promise. They do not shout, they sing. They are the sound of another world slipping into this one, and the ears that will hear them belong not to the powerful, but to the willing. Because in the end, this is the secret. It is not bloodline, not talent, not strength that opens the door. It is choice. Not a single grand gesture, but 1,000 quiet yeses. The gate is not guarded by angels or fire, it is opened by humility. All that's required is that you say yes, and mean it. You are not asked to be perfect, only willing, not to understand everything, only to take the next step. Chosen one, this is your final warning before the miracle begins. Not because you are about to be punished, but because you are about to be transformed. The story has already begun. The next line waits for your answer.